Hello everyone and welcome to Don's PC Guide. This episode is going to be a complete basic beginner's guide to adding LED lighting to your computer case. I'm sorry to all of my subscribers that I haven't posted in quite a while. Basically what I did is just before Christmas I took a step back and I just went over all of the content that I've been producing on YouTube just to see what I can improve on, what the biggest areas of improvement are. And basically, I found that was consistency. So I've set up my camera, my microphone, so hopefully my content is a little bit more consistent, as well as I have upgraded both of those. So I hope that makes a big difference for you guys. And just as always, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell, and smash that like button if you like this video. Let's get started. RGB lighting is very simple to add into your computer, and it can make a really big difference in the overall aesthetic of your gaming build. Now, it's very simple to install, it's very simple to understand, but there are some basics that you need to know before you go out and buy these lights. So the very first thing that you're going to want to do is check your motherboard headers. Most computers that are sold now, the newer ones, they'll have RGB headers, but you have to figure out which type of header it is, whether it's 5 volt or 12 volt, as well as if they are standard RGB or addressable RGB. And no worries, the golden standard is addressable RGB. If you don't have any headers, you can actually add some with this Razer Chroma addressable RGB controller right here. So it's only like $40 US. And what it does is basically one plug goes to power, one goes to USB, and it allows up to 6 different addressable RGB devices to be plugged into it, and you can control them all from the software on your computer. This one, it'll obviously only work with the Chroma app. Now, how do you figure out what kind of headers that you actually have on your motherboard? The easiest step for this is just going to be to look at your motherboard. There should be a code. It's the model number of the motherboard. All you do is you go on to Google, search it up, and pull up the owner's manual. It'll tell you everything about the RGB heads, what software you should be running, whether they're addressable, and their voltage. The second step, and it could be argued to be even easier if you are okay with actually opening up your computer, is just to open up that case and look for the header. So I provided this picture here. The one on the left, that's our 5 volt, and it's addressable. So you see that add header 2. So that means it's an addressable header. That is the golden standard of RGB. That's a really good one to have. If you see that one on your case, you're in luck. The second one, the one to the right, that's a 12 volt RGB header, but you'll see it doesn't say that it's addressable, so this will be a standard RGB header. Now, it is possible to get a 12 volt addressable header, but it's not as common. Usually it's just the 5 volt. Now, here comes the big warning before we do continue. Make sure that you are comfortable with dealing with these sorts of electronics. Make sure you have a little bit of knowledge before you do attempt to add lighting to your computer. If you accidentally put a 5 volt lighting strip into a 12 volt port by somehow modifying it, it shouldn't be possible, but if you somehow bend the pin and get it in, you could ruin your motherboard, and vice versa. You could also blow out your lights. So it's not a great thing to do in the first place. Make sure you do exercise caution and you double check before installing these. So what's the difference between RGB addressable and the standard RGB lights? There is a major difference between these two. This one that I'm showing on the screen right now, those are addressable lights. You can tell because all of the lights, they do have a slightly different color. The cool thing about addressable lights is that they use a digital signal instead of just being wired in series. This means that you can control every single individual LED on the whole strip. This is where the funky software has to come in, or you can get some controllers with some presets and you'll see the scrolling lights. You can basically do whatever you want. They're fully controllable. They're from their brightness of each color down to each individual LED. They're really crazy. Whereas this next one right here, those are just regular standard LEDs. They're all the same color. You can dim them, you can brighten them, you can flash them, but that first light is going to be the same as the rest of the strand. They're all going to be the exact same as the one before it. Now, if you don't have any headers on your motherboard or you don't want to use software control, you can always buy those hardware controllers. So that one that I showed near the beginning of the video, that is a very good option, but it is expensive, right? It's $40 US. You can get ones that are like $10 from China or $10 from Amazon, and they work perfectly good. Most of them, they won't work with addressable RGB, and they won't be software controlled. They're just going to be a remote, but they work perfect. If you don't care about coding, scrolling lights, or anything like that, then it's a great option for you, especially since it's like 3 times cheaper. The way that you would install those types of lights with their own hardware controller is they just plug into your power supply. So you would have to check if you do have that extra power supply cord to plug into this device. Believe it or not, that's all you need to know before you go out and buy those lights. Now, after you buy those lights, we're going to talk about how to install them. If they are fans, if it's just an RGB fan, all you have to do is plug it into the power cord, and then the second wire will be one of these. If it's just a set of lights, then it's just going to have one of these cords here. Now the 3 wire, that's always going to be that's going to be 5 volts, and the 4 wire is always going to be 12 volts. Some of them, some of the 12 volts, they may be addressable, but usually they're not. 5 volts are almost always addressable. The problem with the 5 volts though, is if you link too many together, there may not be enough power to power numerous strands of these lights. It can probably hold a couple of those small strips. I think it's about 60 LEDs in total. But the 12 volt, it'll do a ton of strips. You can link a bunch of those suckers together. Basically what you do is you're going to find the 2 arrows. There's going to be one on the wire, one on the motherboard header, and you just put those together. If there isn't an arrow, like as you see here in this photo, all you do is you line up the arrows with the power pin. So if you got the 5 volt header, that's going to be lined up with the 5 volt pin. If it's 12 volt, then it'll be the 12 volt. If you're not using your built-in motherboard headers, or if you don't have it, you're going to have that hardware controller. All you have to do, plug in the power cord from your power supply into that controller, and if it can be controlled using your computer, there's just going to be an extra USB port, and then you just plug in your light strips the same way as I just showed you after that. Make sure you download the app that is actually supported with your motherboard for controlling your motherboard headers, if applicable, if you're using that method, as well as make sure that every light that you buy, if you're buying more than one, they're all supported and certified by the program that you are using. Just to be careful, they should all work as long as you did find the correct header and you're buying the correct set of lights, 3 wire or 4 wire. But just to be careful, make sure that they're certified for, say, AuraSync if you're doing an AuraSync build, or for Razer Chroma if you're using Razer Chroma. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Don's PC Guide. If you did, make sure you click that subscribe button, hit the bell, and smash that like button. Thank you so much, everybody. If you have any questions about this video, feel free to drop a comment below and I'll answer that as quickly as I can. Have a great day.